Hello and welcome to Englishin. In this video, we're going to talk about alphabet letters in American English. We're going to go through the pronunciation of each of the alphabet letters, but maybe even more importantly than that, we are going to call out some of the key mistakes that non-native speakers often make when saying the names of the alphabet letters in American English. So we're going to go through the pronunciation, but I'm also going to guide you so that you can avoid some really common pitfalls that can make life just that much more challenging. Now, alphabet letters are really important because many times when we get somebody on the phone for customer service, or even when we're just talking to somebody in conversation, we have to spell out our last name, or we have to spell the name of our street because people don't understand it right off the bat. We go to our alphabet letters and we try to spell it out. But sometimes we can make some mistakes that make people misunderstand us when we are spelling. Now, if we have some context, like you're spelling your name or you're spelling the name of a street, it's a lot easier to make an educated guess as a listener when one of the letters is hard to understand or doesn't seem to make sense. But what if you're reading off the letters in a confirmation code, or you're reading off the letters in some other kind of a code, or something that's just a random string of letters? This is also the case with numbers too, is that we want to make sure that it's even more clear when there's not really context for people to go off of to make a guess about which letter you did say in that particular case. All right, so without further ado, let's get to it. And we're going to start with the first letter, which is A. Now, when you're producing the A sound, what you want to do is make sure that you get a small glide at the end of the sound. So when we say A in American English, it's going to have a little tiny yes sound. What that means is that your tongue is going to slide forward on the roof of your mouth just a little bit as you're finishing out that A sound. So if I was going to exaggerate it, it would sound like this. A, yeah, A. But naturally, we just hear a very subtle glide there at the end, A. Now, when we go to B, we're doing a tense E sound there, so the tongue is pushing up firmly on the roof of the mouth and sliding forward just a little bit. B, E, B. Make sure that your lips fully close for that B sound, that you get a nice strong pop there. We do want to close the lips, stop the air, and then release it in a burst. Now, what happens if you don't? If you are a native Spanish speaker, then you might end up with air flowing through, or you might at the same time also have your teeth touching your bottom lip without actually closing your lips. Now, if you don't close your lips and the air flows through, it sounds like this, V. All right, now the problem is that is actually a different letter. So if we look over here, we see that if we let the air flow through, if we have the top teeth touching the bottom lip, it's going to sound like number 22 over here, which is the letter V. Now, again, in contrast, we go back over here and we close the lips firmly and we release the air pressure in a burst. B, B. One last thing, which is a much less common error, but is important to point out, is that when you're saying the name of number 2 here, the letter B, we do have vibration coming from the throat. So we have vibration here. If you put your hand on your throat, you'll feel it right from the very beginning of this pronunciation, B, B. Now, if you get rid of that vibration, then instead of sounding like B, you will have pronounced P. Do you hear the difference? So here's this with vibration or voicing, B. Now without vibration, P, B, P. And then going back over here again to this last change that we pointed out, here we have B, again, nice pop, and V, B, V. Do you hear it? All right, let's go on to the next one. So when we say number 3, we say the letter C. Now, when you are pronouncing this letter, this should be really easy for you to pronounce, but I'm going to go ahead and throw a teaser out there that you want to make sure that you make a difference between these two. So C is voiceless, no vibration coming from the throat. And when you say number 26, Z, you should feel vibration coming from the throat. So if you are trying to pronounce Z, which I have highlighted, and you get rid of the vibration, it's going to sound exactly like this, C. Now let's check out number 4. So again, we have voicing coming into play here. If we say D with vibration, it sounds like the one I have highlighted. If we get rid of that vibration and it's voiceless, then it's going to sound like T. Listen again to the one that I have highlighted, T. And now over here, D. The good news is that most non-native speakers don't have a problem with voicing the D sound at the beginning of words or here at the beginning of this syllable. So it's very unlikely that you would accidentally pronounce T instead of D, but it's good to pay attention to this. Every once in a while, those kinds of things do happen, so it's good to call them out so you can be aware. Now, if you are a Spanish speaker, this one might be a little confusing because when we say the name of the letter E, it probably sounds to you like what we consider to be I. So number 9 here is I, and over here, E, which sounds like it could be a little confusing there. So really pay attention to these letters, E versus I. Pay attention to that E sound, and when you hear that, it's the letter E, not I in American English. All right, when we say F, nothing too extraordinary here. We do have the top teeth touching the bottom lip and the air flows through. And then when we go to number 7, sometimes I find that these can be a little bit confusing, especially if you are a native speaker of French. Here, G versus J, making sure that you have the right vowel sound. So they both start with a J sound, and then they go in, the letter G goes into tense E with the tongue sliding on the roof, very high right from the beginning of that vowel sound, G. And then in number 10, we have J. So your tongue starts a little bit lower on the vowel sound and still goes up to the roof and slides forward. But the beginning consonant is the same. All right, another one that can be tricky for speakers of French and also for people from Indian language backgrounds is the letter H. So when we say H, we want to make sure that we start with a vowel sound. Now, all of the vowel sounds are voiced. They have vibration that comes from the throat. So when you start the name of this letter, you should feel vibration from the throat right away. H, H. We do not want to add a h sound at the beginning. So if we did that, it would sound like H, but we're not adding a h sound. So even though it makes the h sound, we don't actually hear h anywhere in the pronunciation. So this is a little bit different than many of our other consonant letters in American English, because you can see, for example, in number 4, we have the letter D and it makes a D sound in it. When we say D, we say the name of the letter. Here we have the letter F, it makes a f sound in it, just like we would expect. But when we see H, it actually doesn't make the h sound at all. So we have an A sound and then a hard popping ch. Now, the other thing that you do want to pay attention to when you are saying the name of the letter H is that we do have a glide on this A sound. So the vowel, your tongue should slide up on the roof of the mouth, again, making that really subtle Y sound, just like we did here in number 1 with A, little slide at the end. If you don't get that slide, then the name of this letter can start to sound like etch, as in etch a sketch, or I'm going to etch something into a piece of stone. So we do want to get that nice little slide to get the A sound, H. When we say the name of number 9, we have the letter I. This also has a little glide at the end, so make sure that your tongue slides on the roof just a little bit, I. We gave a little teaser here for the letter J before. Let's practice it again. we're going to get a hard popping j sound and then a nice little slide for the A. J, J. When we say the name of the letter K, we also, again, have that A sound we have in many of our alphabet letters when they're named. Here we have L, M. Make sure that when you say the name of the letter M that you do close your lips, especially if you are a native speaker of Portuguese, sometimes native speakers of Spanish. It's not very common that you would make this mistake when naming out the letter, but sometimes we do see with an M at the end of a syllable after a vowel sound, sometimes we see that speakers of those languages tend to produce an N instead. So instead of saying something like them with the lips closed, they might say then with the lips open and the tongue behind the top front teeth. So make sure when you're saying the name of the letter M, make sure your lips do close. Here, when we say the name of the letter N, we have the lips open and the tongue is touching behind the top front teeth. All right, when we say the name of the letter O, we're going to get a little glide here at the end. So the lips are going to glide forward. O, O. Now, when you watch native speakers, if you watch them speak, you might not see them glide forward so much for the end of the O sound, but you can hear the glide. So what I find is that for non-native speakers, it's usually important for you to really exaggerate that gliding motion just a little bit. If you can see your lips actually moving forward, that's a good sign. And over time, you'll be able to soften it to make it more natural so that we hear the glide, but we don't necessarily see it quite so easily when you're speaking. When we say number 16 here, again, this is a voiceless sound, P, P. We have a nice little pop. There's no vibration coming from the throat. In Q, we have a K and a Y and then oo. So the lips are gliding forward again here at the end. So we have the tongue gliding on the roof for the Y sound, Q. And then the lips gliding at the end for the end of the oo sound. Lots of gliding in this letter name. When we say the name of the letter R, we do need to get a really tense tongue for that sound. Now, if you want to learn about the sound, and I recommend that you do, I would check out the lessons that we have on Englishin, then also look at some of our other YouTube videos where we call out the pronunciation of the R here. It is a little bit more of a complicated sound. On Englishin, we have lots and lots of word lists for you to practice. We have it broken down in many different ways to really help you get it, depending on what your difficulty is with that particular consonant sound. But for now, I'll just put a teaser out there. Your tongue should be very tense. Whenever we see an R in American English, we are going to have a strong sound. So we're not going to weaken the R in a very neutral dialect of American English. It's going to be tense, it's going to be strong every time you see it. All right, here we have the letter S. Nothing too special here. Most of the time this one turns out just fine, even when non-native speakers pronounce it. Again, we have T as well. T, pretty simple and straightforward. When we say the name of the letter U, make sure that you get the glide at the beginning and the glide at the end. So we have the tongue sliding on the roof for the Y sound at the beginning, and then at the end, the lips glide forward to say wa. U. Lots of gliding, just like what we saw with the letter Q. All right, do you remember what is so important about V? Well, one of the things is that we don't want it to end up sounding like B. So make sure that your top teeth touch your bottom lip and that the air flows through. Now, if you are from certain language backgrounds, for example, speakers of Indian languages, you might end up gliding both of your lips together. That is not what we should be doing here for this letter. So again, it's very important. Top teeth touch the bottom lip and the air flows through. It's a hissing, buzzing kind of a sound. Versus if you said we, we have the lips together gliding forward. We, like we are doing it. But here, naming the letter V, you can hear that vibration, you can hear that buzzing that's coming from here, but because of your teeth touching your bottom lip. And then also we have the vibration coming from the throat. When we say the name of the letter W, this is a big long one. It's like saying double U, W, but we're gonna keep it nice and smooth and connected. X has two consonant sounds here. We have a K and an S. If you miss one of those consonants, so if you accidentally skip the K sound, then it's going to sound like you are saying S. So we have X, K and an S, and here we have S, S, X. So make sure that your tongue stops the air in the back of your mouth for that K sound before you pronounce the S. In number 25, we say Y. This has a W sound at the beginning, so your lips are gliding forward. Y, Y. And then finally, Z. Again, we talked about this earlier, but it's good to reiterate just to make sure that you hear it and you remember it, that if you make this voiceless, so if you take the voicing away, it's going to sound exactly like number 3, C. Okay, and then here it is with vibration again. Z, C, Z. All right, so a lot of these, just to recap, we have a few things that are really important about the letters in American English. One is that a lot of the vowel sounds that we produce, when we're saying the name of the letter, a lot of them have a glide. So we had A with a glide here, we have H with a glide, I with a glide, J with a glide. So make sure that your tongue slides forward and gets that little tiny yes sound. We also had some things with voicing. So making sure that we're paying attention to whether we have vibration in the throat or not for the consonant sound. That's going to be important for some of these letters to make sure they don't get mixed up. If you want to learn more about voicing and learn rules, not just for voicing in general, but specific rules that can be applied in a bigger scale or on a bigger scale, we do have those on Englishin, so check out those lessons. And we also have related lessons. We have lessons on numbers, we have months of the year, we have other common vocabulary, and then we have interesting lessons related to spelling things out, naming things out, giving groups of numbers in terms of the stress patterns and the pronunciation and the linking within those words. So check those out. We look forward to seeing you there if you're able to join us on Englishin. And for now, happy practicing with your alphabet letters. If you enjoyed this lesson and you feel like you learned something valuable about American English, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing. We'll be posting regularly on this channel. We also have extensive content for you on Englishin.com. We have courses for both students and trainers, so we hope that you'll visit us there. Until next time, happy practicing.